Because humanity, in terms of, we're talking about consciousness, the evolution of consciousness, they have a self-reflective consciousness, and there's a ability to take the measure of things that's pretty precious. And we get to a point where we can destroy that. It's a pretty existentially significant moment in the evolution of consciousness and in the universe, isn't it?
It's the end of life.
Yeah. No, not the end of life. I don't think we can end life, can we?
Yes, we could.
There's systems of non-photosynthesis of the smokers in the bottom of the ocean that would survive.
We could make the world radioactive enough, if in case of a war.
You think we could wipe out life?
Yeah.
Even the sulfur-based things that the smokers at the bottom of the ocean that
That's
don't
right.
have photosynthesis?
That's right.
We could wipe that out, too.
If you make the world radioactive enough.
Couldn't do that in the Second World War.
Could not. Could not.
So we've crossed some major existential moment in the evolution of consciousness.
The transition from Type 0 to Type 1 civilizations is the most dangerous but most historic of all transitions. So we're already beginning to see the beginning, just the beginning of a global civilization, a planetary civilization. And that's where we're headed for in about 100 years' time.
You think 100 years?
About 100 years' time.
You think we got that long?
Well,
to go along the course we're going now?
Well, I think we have a 50-50 chance.
You don't think the universe is trying to tell us that we've crossed the line where we can, by our own hand, our own volition, we can destroy our species? That's not trying to tell us something?
Well,
in an existential sense?
I think by mid-century we could hit the point of no return with regards to global warming.
You mean by 2050?
By 2050, in the next several decades, we're going to come very close to the point of no return. Transition from Type 0 to Type 1 is the most glorious, but it's also the most dangerous, because we have biotech weapons.
That's right.
Designer germs.
That's right.
We have nuclear weapons. We have the greenhouse effect. Any one of them could potentially wipe out life on Earth.
And we have a capacity with the technological capability of providing for the citizens of the world, 6 billion heading for 10, in a way that we have not had traditionally the capability of providing, so that we could make the world, in a certain sense, liberated from the ancient scourges that have plagued mankind throughout this whole evolutionary climb up Mount Sisyphus. I mean, but we haven't arrived at that. We don't have a system of organization that involves all the humanity in a way like the 100 trillion cells of a human organism are united by DNA. We don't have a system that's in place that effectively makes that kind of resonating whole of the human society evolved in a liberated context that might be relevant to what we need in order to get a resonancy with the higher order of things?
Well, that's Type 1. You're talking about an overall, organizing scheme.
It may not be 100 years off. It might be necessary that we get the pattern to that at a level of political, economic, and social organization and so forth, involving all of humanity and all of the environment in a way so that we have a course toward that if we're going to make it.
Yeah, but I think if you take a look at energy consumption of the planet Earth, and you get a calculator to calculate when we will attain Type 1 status, it's about 100 years' time. We're laying the groundwork for it. And you can see the beginning of it. Like I said, the Internet is the beginning of a Type 1 telephone system. But by mid-century, the whole Earth is going to be tested very severely. It's being tested now. We're already seeing
That's what I think is being tested this week, I feel.
We're already seeing the beginning of the break up the poles. We're beginning to see the recession of every single glacier on the planet Earth. We're beginning to see disruption of the global patterns. The seasons are being disrupted on the Earth. We're seeing the beginnings of it. And it's going to get awfully bad. I personally think that there could be a disaster. It may take a global disaster before people wake up to the real threats facing.
Not on the order of a apocalyptic disaster where we unleash the weapons of destruction, some sort of a God-a-Ramadan disaster. I mean, disaster isn't like the old days when it was a disaster over there, but this keeps going, the process. Disaster now, and a real disaster, is cataclysmic in a way that's never been the case.
I think it may take a catastrophe before people wake up to the threats of what's happening on the planet Earth. But politicians aren't doing anything.
We don't have a vision that is going to allow the system to be able to realize the importance of everybody and all the ecological content. We don't have that kind of a vision in terms of our political leadership, and they have control all of these weapons of mass destruction.
That's right. That's why I'm saying we may not make it to Type 1 status.
We may not. Bucky always used to say
it would be a global era of Aquarius if we can negotiate all these obstacles.
That's the challenge, is it not?
Yeah. Well, you see the transitions taking place now, but it's going to get more severe. All the trends that you see now are going to be magnified into the next several decades. And like I said before, it's going to be close. Some of us give us a 50-50 chance that we'll make it to type 1 in 100 years' time. But you see, if we do make it to type 1, you're talking about a planetary civilization. A civilization where people will have instantaneous access to unlimited amounts of information, where democracy is going to be unstoppable. What I'm saying is the natural progression of the economy, the mathematics of energy production would naturally create type 1 civilization in 100 years. But if the politicians don't do something, if the people aren't energized to force the politicians to do something, it could be short-circuited. We may never reach. We may never reach 2100. Progress takes struggle. The politicians are very comfortable. The oil companies are very comfortable. Petrochemical is very comfortable. They don't want to make a transition to solar technologies, renewable technologies. So what's going to happen is we're going to see global warming accelerate. In my book, Parallel Worlds, you know, I do discuss the possibility that history may evolve differently in another universe, and perhaps they're wiser there. Perhaps they've already faced that catastrophe. Perhaps they realize they have to rein in global warming. They have to rein in nuclear weapons. But in other parallel universes, perhaps they didn't, in which case they're not here to talk about it, in which case they've self-destructed.
And we may do the same.
Yeah.
And it could be that that's what we're meant, but it could be that we have a higher calling, and that's what it seems to me your work is in calling us to. And I want to just thank you for viewing and thank you for coming in very much. The book is called Parallel Worlds. You can't do better than get it. It's highly recommended. And Michio Kaku is the best voice I know in terms of trying to make the wonders of science and the human condition accessible to a wide audience. I thank you very much for that and congratulate you on all your work.